You are listening to Scrum Unlocked, your practical guide to Agile success. Subscribe to keep up to date on our latest audiobooks. Scrum Unlocked, your practical guide to Agile success. Chapter 1, The Agile Revolution and Why Scrum Matters. In the early days of computing, software development was often an artisanal craft, with small teams or even individuals hand-coding solutions for specific problems. As technology advanced and projects grew in complexity, the need for more structured approaches became apparent. This led to the rise of what became known as the waterfall model of project management. The allure and limitations of waterfall. Imagine building a house. You'd typically start with a detailed architectural blueprint, then lay the foundation, construct the walls, install plumbing and electrical, and finally, add the finishing touches. Each phase is completed before the next begins, in a strict, sequential order. This makes perfect sense for a physical product where changes mid-construction are expensive and disruptive. The waterfall model applied this same logic to software development. It generally followed these sequential phases: requirements gathering. All needs and wishes for the software were meticulously documented upfront. Design. A detailed plan for the software's architecture and components was created. Implementation. The code was written based on the design. Testing. The software was thoroughly tested to find bugs and ensure it met requirements. Deployment release. The complete software was delivered to the users. Maintenance. Ongoing support and bug fixes. For simple, highly predictable projects with stable requirements, waterfall could work. It offered a sense of control, clear milestones, and easy progress tracking against a fixed plan. However, software, unlike a house, is inherently fluid. User needs change, markets evolve, new technologies emerge, and even the best initial requirements documents can't foresee every future detail. The inherent problem with waterfall for complex software was its rigidity. Late feedback. The customer often didn't see working software until late in the project, by which point fundamental changes were incredibly costly or impossible. Imagine designing a house for 2 people, only for the family to grow to 5 midway through construction, but you don't find out until the house is almost finished. Difficulty with change. Any change in requirements meant going back through previous phases, leading to delays, cost overruns, and frustration. Big bang releases. Delivering everything at once carried significant risk. If there were major issues, they often weren't discovered until launch. Documentation heavy. Projects often became burdened with endless documentation, much of which was obsolete before the project finished. Demotivated teams. Developers often felt like cogs in a machine, with little input into decision-making or direct connection to customer value. Many projects delivered under the waterfall model ultimately failed, overran budgets, missed deadlines, or delivered products that no longer met market needs. A different way was desperately needed. The seeds of Agile, a shift in mindset. As the internet began to boom in the late 1990s, the pace of change accelerated even further. Software cycles that once spanned years now needed to be compressed into months or even weeks. Software delivery could no longer be a sequential, factory-line process. It needed to be dynamic, collaborative, and responsive. Independent thinkers and practitioners began experimenting with more iterative and incremental approaches. They weren't focused on reinventing project management from scratch, but rather on finding better ways to deliver software. They shared common frustrations with the status quo and a growing conviction that prioritizing people, collaboration, and rapid feedback loops was key. This shared desire for a more effective way of working culminated in a landmark meeting in February 2001. 17 industry leaders, including Jeff Sutherland and Ken Schwaber, who had co-created Scrum years earlier, Ward Cunningham, creator of the Wiki, and Alastair Cockburn, pioneered crystal methodologies, gathered at a ski resort in Snowbird, Utah. Their intent was not to create another rigid methodology, but to identify common ground among their various adaptive approaches. The Agile Manifesto, a guiding philosophy. The outcome of that meeting was the Manifesto for Agile Software Development, a powerful and concise statement that has since guided countless teams and organizations. It didn't prescribe specific processes or tools, but rather offered 4 core values and 12 supporting principles. The 4 core values of the Agile Manifesto: individuals and interactions over processes and tools. Meaning, while processes and tools are important, the creativity, collaboration, and communication among people are far more crucial for success. Working software over comprehensive documentation. Meaning, the ultimate measure of progress is functional software that users can interact with, not a pile of meticulously detailed, but unimplemented, documents. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation. Meaning, instead of rigid contracts and specifications, continuous dialogue and partnership with the customer lead to better outcomes. Responding to change over following a plan. Meaning, plans are important starting points, but the ability to adapt to new information, market shifts, or user feedback is paramount in dynamic environments. These values collectively represent a profound shift in mindset. They emphasize flexibility, empiricism, and a human-centric approach to problem-solving. This wasn't just about different ways of doing things, it was about thinking differently about value, risk, and teamwork. Enter Scrum, the most popular Agile framework. Among the various frameworks that embody the Agile values and principles, such as Kanban, extreme programming, Crystal, and lean development, Scrum has emerged as the most widely adopted framework for building complex products. So what exactly is Scrum? At its heart, Scrum is a lightweight, iterative, and incremental framework for developing and sustaining complex products. It's built on transparency, inspection, and adaptation. Think of it less as a rigid methodology with step-by-step instructions, and more like a minimalist rulebook for a team sport. It provides a simple structure within which teams can organize themselves to deliver value effectively. Key characteristics of Scrum that align with Agile values. Empiricism. Scrum relies on inspect and adapt. Instead of trying to predict everything up front, which is impossible in complex environments, Scrum teams learn from experience through frequent feedback loops. Iterative and incremental delivery. Work is broken down into small, manageable chunks increments and delivered in short, fixed-length cycles called sprints. This allows for frequent inspection and adaptation. Self-managing teams. Teams decide the best way to accomplish their work rather than being directed by external managers. This fosters ownership and innovation. Transparency. All aspects of the process are visible to those responsible for the outcome. Openness builds trust and enables informed decision-making. Clear roles and events. Scrum defines specific roles: product owner, Scrum Master, developers, and events, sprint planning, daily Scrum, sprint review, sprint retrospective, that create a rhythm and accountability within the team. Why Scrum matters today. The advantages unlocked. In a world that demands speed, flexibility, and customer centricity, Scrum offers significant advantages. Rapid value delivery. By delivering increments of working software frequently, organizations can get valuable products into the hands of users much faster, gaining early feedback and realizing benefits sooner. Increased adaptability. Scrum's iterative nature allows teams to respond quickly to changing requirements, market shifts, or new insights without derailing the entire project. Higher quality products. The focus on done increments, continuous testing, and regular inspection through sprint reviews helps catch issues early and ensures a higher quality deliverable. Enhanced customer satisfaction. Direct customer involvement and frequent delivery of working product ensures that what is built truly meets their needs and expectations. Improved team morale and productivity. Self-managing, cross-functional teams feel more empowered, engaged, and productive, leading to greater job satisfaction and higher output. Reduced risk. By exposing potential issues early and often, Scrum mitigates the risk of building the wrong product or encountering major problems late in the development cycle. Greater transparency. The framework's emphasis on visibility and open communication allows everyone, from the development team to stakeholders, to understand the project's progress and challenges. Scrum isn't just a process. It's a profound shift in how work gets done, emphasizing collaboration, learning, and continuous improvement. It's about creating an environment where teams can thrive and consistently deliver exceptional value in a complex world. This book will guide you through each component of the Scrum framework, explaining not just what it is, but why it's important and how to apply it effectively. As we move forward, remember that Scrum is simple to understand, but often challenging to master. It requires discipline, practice, and a willingness to embrace change, but the rewards are well worth the effort. Let's begin by diving deeper into the foundational Agile mindset that underpins all of Scrum. Chapter 2, the Agile Mindset. Principles guiding Scrum. In the previous chapter, we explored the limitations of traditional project management and the genesis of the Agile movement. We introduced the Agile Manifesto and its 4 core values. These values are not just abstract ideas. They represent a fundamental shift in thinking about how work should be done, especially in complex, uncertain environments. Before we dive into the specifics of Scrum, it's crucial to cultivate an understanding of this underlying, Agile mindset, as it forms the bedrock upon which Scrum is built. Without embracing these principles, Scrum can become a hollow set of rituals without true impact. Re-examining the Agile values, more than just words. Let's revisit the 4 core values of the Agile Manifesto and delve deeper into what they truly mean in practice. Individuals and interactions over processes and tools. This value doesn't mean processes and tools are useless. Rather, it emphasizes that the most significant factor in success is the quality of human connection, communication, and collaboration. Imagine a team with the perfect project management software, but members who don't talk to each other, trust each other, or resolve conflicts. They will inevitably fail. Conversely, a team that communicates openly, respects diverse opinions, and helps each other succeed, even with imperfect tools, is far more likely to deliver. Practical implication. This encourages face-to-face communication or effective virtual equivalents, shared understanding, and a culture where asking for help, open discussion, and feedback are common. It prioritizes psychological safety, allowing team members to admit mistakes, ask dumb questions, and challenge ideas without fear of retribution. Working software over comprehensive documentation. This does not imply that documentation is bad or unnecessary. It simply states that the primary measure of progress is a tangible, functional product that users can experience, not the amount of paperwork produced. A common pitfall in waterfall projects was spending months on detailed specifications, only to discover upon delivery that the product didn't meet real user needs or the market had shifted. Practical implication: deliver small, usable chunks of functionality frequently. Get them into the hands of users or stakeholders. This focuses the team on creating valuable output rather than simply ticking off boxes on a project plan. Any documentation should be just enough to support the working product and facilitate future understanding, not an end in itself. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation. Traditional projects often involved lengthy negotiations and highly detailed contracts, sometimes leading to an us-vs, them dynamic between the development team and the client. The Agile mindset shifts this to a partnership. Instead of arguing over contractual clauses when requirements change, Agile teams view the customer as an integral part of the development process, collaborating continually to ensure the product evolves to meet evolving needs. Practical implication: foster close, daily cooperation between the development team and business stakeholders. This means regular feedback loops, shared decision-making, and a mutual understanding that the goal is to build the right product, even if that means adjusting the initial plan. Responding to changeover following a plan. Plans are essential starting points, but they are hypotheses, not immutable laws. The world is complex and unpredictable. New information emerges, markets shift, and user needs become clearer as a product develops. Adhering rigidly to an outdated plan can be disastrous. The Agile mindset embraces change as an opportunity, not a problem, and builds systems that are flexible enough to pivot when necessary. Practical implication: design processes that allow for frequent inspection and adaptation. Break down work into small iterations, allowing for quick adjustments based on feedback and new insights. This means valuing the ability to change direction over blindly sticking to a predetermined path. The 12 supporting principles. Agile in action. Beyond the 4 core values, The Agile Manifesto also provides 12 supporting principles that elaborate on how these values can be put into practice. Our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. Welcome changing requirements, even late in development. Agile processes harness change for the customer's competitive advantage. Deliver working software frequently, from a couple of weeks to a couple of months, with a preference to the shorter timescale. Business people and developers must work together daily throughout the project. Build projects around motivated individuals. Give them the environment and support they need, and trust them to get the job done. The most efficient and effective method of conveying information to and within a development team is face-to-face conversation. Working software is the primary measure of progress. Agile processes promote sustainable development. The sponsors, developers, and users should be able to maintain a constant pace indefinitely. Continuous attention to technical excellence and good design enhances agility. 10. Simplicity, the art of maximizing the amount of work not done, is essential. 11. The best architectures, requirements, and designs emerge from self-organizing teams. 12. At regular intervals, the team reflects on how to become more effective, then tunes and adjusts its behavior accordingly. These principles serve as a compass for teams and organizations aiming to be agile. They emphasize collaboration, self-organization, iterative development, and continuous improvement. How Scrum embodies the Agile mindset, the pillars of empiricism. Scrum, as the most popular Agile framework, is deeply rooted in these values and principles. It provides a concrete structure that enables an empirical process, meaning it relies on actual observation and experience rather than prediction or theory. This empiricism rests on three foundational pillars: transparency, inspection, and adaptation. Transparency. For Scrum to work, every significant aspect of the process must be visible to those responsible for the outcome. If decisions are being made based on hidden information, or if the true state of work is obscured, the process will fail. In Scrum, transparency is fostered through clearly defined artifacts like the product backlog, sprint backlog, and increment, which we'll explore in Chapter 5. These are explicitly designed to provide a shared, up-to-date view of the work. Daily Scrums, Chapter 4, promote transparency within the team, and sprint reviews, Chapter 4, ensure transparency with stakeholders regarding progress and the product's evolution. When everyone knows what's going on, it builds trust and enables informed decisions. Inspection, regular and frequent inspection of the project's progress and the Scrum artifacts. The work being done is crucial to detect undesirable variances or problems. This isn't about micromanagement, but about disciplined observation at key points. In Scrum, inspection is built into every Scrum event. The daily Scrum inspects progress toward the sprint goal. The sprint review inspects the increment and the product backlog to adapt future work. The sprint retrospective inspects how the team works together. Without regular inspection, problems can fester and grow. Adaptation. If inspection reveals that an aspect of the process deviates outside acceptable limits, or that the current goals are no longer optimal, the process or the material being processed must be adjusted. In Scrum, adaptation is the natural outcome of inspection. Based on what's learned in the daily Scrum, the developers might adjust their plan for the day. Based on the sprint review, the product backlog might be reordered, and the next sprint might focus on a different set of items. Most importantly, the sprint retrospective is explicitly for the team to adapt their working process to become more effective in the future. These three pillars are intrinsically linked. Without transparency, effective inspection is impossible. Without inspection, deviations go unnoticed. Without adaptation, detected deviations lead to stagnation and failure. Scrum provides the scaffold to continuously apply these pillars, enabling teams to operate in an empirical, learning-oriented fashion. Embracing the mindset for success. The Agile mindset encourages a culture where learning is valued. Mistakes are seen as opportunities for growth, not failures to be punished. Feedback is sought. Teams actively seek input from users, customers, and each other. Collaboration is key. Silos are broken down, and cross-functional teamwork is celebrated. Empowerment is fostered. Teams are trusted and given the autonomy to figure out the best way to do their work. Continuous improvement is a habit. It's not just about one-off changes, but a relentless pursuit of better ways of working. Adopting Scrum effectively isn't about just following a set of rules. It's about internalizing these Agile values and principles. It requires a shift from a predictive, command-and-control approach to an adaptive, empirical, and collaborative one. When the mindset change happens, Scrum moves from being a process you do to a way you are, enabling genuine agility and sustained success. In the next chapter, we will begin to explore the concrete structure of Scrum by introducing the 3 core roles that make up the Scrum team. Understanding these roles is your first step in seeing how the Agile mindset materializes within the Scrum framework. Chapter 3. The Scrum Team, Roles and Responsibilities Defined. In the previous chapter, we established that the Agile mindset, with its emphasis on individuals, collaboration, working increments, and adaptability, forms the philosophical core of Scrum. Now, let's explore how these principles are embodied in the structure of the Scrum team itself. Unlike traditional project hierarchies, where roles are often siloed and management dictates tasks, the Scrum team is designed to be a highly collaborative, self-managing, and cross-functional unit. It's small enough to remain nimble, yet large enough to deliver significant work within a short timeframe. A Scrum team consists of 3 specific accountabilities: the product owner, the Scrum Master, and developers. These are not job titles in the traditional sense, but rather roles within the Scrum framework, each with distinct responsibilities crucial for the team's success. The entire Scrum team is collectively responsible for creating valuable, useful increments every sprint. Let's break down each role: the product owner, the visionary and value maximizer. If the product were a ship, the product owner would be the captain, responsible for setting the course and ensuring the ship reaches its most valuable destination. The product owner is solely accountable for maximizing the value of the product resulting from the work of the developers. This requires a deep understanding of the customer, the market, the business goals, and the technical possibilities. Key responsibilities of the product owner include product backlog management. This is the product owner's primary tool. They are solely responsible for creating, clearly expressing, and ordering items in the product backlog. This means breaking down large ideas into smaller, manageable items, assigning priorities based on value, risk, and dependencies, and continually refining them. Vision and strategy. The product owner defines the product vision and strategy, communicating it clearly to the Scrum team and stakeholders. They ensure everyone understands what they are building and why. Stakeholder liaison. They serve as the bridge between the development team and all other stakeholders: customers, executives, sales, marketing, support, etc. They gather feedback, translate business needs into actionable product backlog items, and ensure stakeholder alignment. Value optimization. The product owner continuously evaluates the market and user feedback to ensure the team is always working on the most valuable items. This often involves tough decisions about what not to build. Availability. A good product owner is readily available to the developers to answer questions, clarify requirements, and make quick decisions, ensuring the team is never blocked waiting for guidance. It's crucial that the product owner is a single individual, not a committee. While they consult with many people, the ultimate decision-making authority for the product backlog rests with one person to avoid conflicting priorities and ensure swift decisions. Without a clear product owner, a Scrum team can quickly become directionless, leading to wasted effort and frustration. The Scrum Master, the servant leader and impediment remover. The Scrum Master is perhaps the most misunderstood role in Scrum. They are not a project manager, a team lead, a secretary, or a technical expert who dictates solutions. Instead, the Scrum Master is a servant leader to the Scrum team and the organization. Their primary goal is to help everyone understand Scrum theory, practices, rules, and values, and to ensure the team operates effectively within the framework. Think of the Scrum Master as a coach, a facilitator, and a shield. Their responsibilities include coaching the Scrum team. They help the developers become self-managing and cross-functional, encouraging good practices and fostering a collaborative environment. They coach the product owner on effective product backlog management. Facilitating Scrum events. While the team owns the events, the Scrum Master ensures they happen, are positive, productive, and kept within their time boxes. They guide discussions and help the team stay focused. Removing impediments. The Scrum Master actively works to remove obstacles and blockers that hinder the developer's progress, whether technical, organizational, or interpersonal. This might involve liaising with other departments, clarifying organizational policies, or mediating conflicts. Promoting transparency. They help the team and stakeholders understand the importance of clear communication and visibility, ensuring that the work is transparently understood by all. Improvement agent. The Scrum Master continually looks for ways to improve the Scrum team's practices, processes, and tools, often facilitating the sprint retrospective. Scaling Scrum, organizational level. They champion Scrum adoption throughout the organization, helping others outside the Scrum team understand how to interact effectively with the team. They work to remove organizational impediments that are beyond the team's control. The Scrum Master protects the team from external distractions and helps them maintain focus on their sprint goal. Their success is measured not by how many tasks they complete, but by the team's overall effectiveness and adherence to Agile principles. Developers, the builders and creators. The developers are the people who are committed to creating any aspect of a usable increment in each sprint. This role encompasses all the skills necessary to turn product backlog items into done software or other products. In a software context, this includes designers, programmers, testers, quality assurance specialists, business analysts, and anyone else actively involved in building the product. They are the hands-on contributors. Key characteristics and responsibilities of the developers. Self-managing. The developers are empowered to decide how best to convert product backlog items into valuable increments. They are not told how to do their work. They collectively figure it out. This fosters ownership, innovation, and high levels of engagement. Cross-functional. As a collective, the developers possess all the skills needed to create the increment without relying on others outside the team. This doesn't mean every individual is a jack of all trades, but rather that the team, as an entity, has all the necessary expertise. Accountable for the increment. The developers are ultimately accountable for delivering a done increment by the end of each sprint. This means their work meets the agreed-upon definition of done, which we'll discuss in Chapter 5. Daily planning. They meet daily in the daily Scrum to inspect progress toward the sprint goal and adapt their plan for the day ahead. Quality-focused. They are responsible for ensuring the quality of the increment, often through practices like continuous integration, test-driven development, and vigilant bug fixing. No subteams. Although individuals may specialize, there are no hierarchical subteams within the developers. Everyone is a developer within the Scrum team, collectively working towards the sprint goal. An optimal size for the developers is generally between 3 and 9 people. If the team is too small, it may lack sufficient diverse skills or be overly reliant on individuals. If it's too large, communication becomes complex, and coordination overhead can reduce efficiency. The synergy of the Scrum team. Much like a well-oiled machine or a championship sports team, the strength of Scrum lies in the synergy of these 3 roles. They are distinct, yet deeply interdependent. The product owner defines what is most valuable to build, the vision. The developers figure out how to build it most effectively and efficiently, the execution. The Scrum Master ensures the entire system works smoothly, removing obstacles and coaching everyone to optimize their interactions and adhere to the Scrum values and principles, the enabler. Together, they form a cohesive, self-managing unit optimized for delivering value in complex environments. This structure fosters a strong sense of ownership, accountability, and continuous improvement, truly embodying the Agile mindset. In the next chapter, we will delve into the rhythm of Scrum by exploring the Scrum events. These are specific, time-boxed meetings that provide the structure and opportunities for inspection and adaptation within each sprint. Chapter 4, the Scrum Events, Rhythms of Progress. In the previous chapter, we dissected the 3 core accountabilities that form the Scrum team: the product owner, the Scrum Master, and the developers. While these roles define who is involved, it's the Scrum events that dictate how they collaborate and when they inspect and adapt their work. Think of the Scrum events as the heartbeat and rhythmic structure of Scrum, providing a consistent cadence for delivering value. Each event in Scrum serves a specific purpose, creating transparent opportunities for inspection and adaptation. They are all time-boxed, meaning they have a maximum duration. This time-boxing is crucial for discipline, focus, and ensuring that teams don't get bogged down in endless discussions. It keeps the energy high and the conversations productive. Before we dive into each specific event, let's understand the overarching container for all of them: the sprint. The sprint, the heartbeat of Scrum. The sprint is the fundamental unit of Scrum. It is a fixed-length period, typically 1 to 4 weeks, but usually 2 weeks is common in practice, during which the Scrum team works to create a done, usable, and potentially releasable increment. Once a sprint begins, its duration is fixed and cannot be shortened or lengthened. The goal is to establish a consistent, predictable rhythm. Imagine a series of mini-projects, each lasting just a few weeks. Each sprint is a complete cycle of planning, executing, inspecting, and adapting. The moment one sprint ends, another begins immediately. Key characteristics of the sprint: fixed length. The duration of the sprint is chosen by the Scrum team, and once chosen, it remains consistent throughout the project. This predictability allows the team to learn its pace and build habits. No changes jeopardizing the sprint goal. Once a sprint goal, which we'll discuss under sprint planning, is established, it remains sacred. While the scope within the sprint can be adapted and clarified in collaboration between the product owner and developers, the overall objective for that sprint should not change in a way that undermines the sprint goal. Quality goals don't decrease. The definition of done, which defines what constitutes a complete, usable piece of work, covered in Chapter 5, cannot be lowered during a sprint. Focus on a done increment. The primary objective of every sprint is to produce a usable piece of the product. This ensures frequent delivery of value and opportunities for real feedback. The fixed duration of the sprint is a powerful constraint. It forces the team to prioritize, make difficult decisions, and deliver value incrementally, rather than waiting for a big bang release at the very end of a long project. Now, let's explore the events that occur within each sprint. 1. Sprint planning, setting the course. The sprint planning event initiates the sprint by laying out the work to be performed. It's a collaborative effort involving the entire Scrum team. Time box, a maximum of 8 hours for a 1-month sprint. Shorter sprints will have proportionally shorter planning sessions, e.g., 4 hours for a 2-week sprint. Attendees, the entire Scrum team, product owner, Scrum master, and developers. Purpose: to define the sprint goal and create the sprint backlog. Sprint planning addresses 3 key topics. Topic 1, why is this sprint valuable? The sprint goal. The product owner proposes how the product could increase its value and utility in the current sprint. They present the most important product backlog items that could contribute to this value. The entire Scrum team then collaboratively crafts a sprint goal. This is a single, concise objective for the sprint. It provides guidance and flexibility. For instance, instead of implement user login and password reset, a sprint goal might be enable users to securely access their accounts. This allows the developers room to figure out the best way to achieve the goal. Having a goal allows the team to renegotiate the work if challenges arise, without losing sight of the overall objective. Topic 2, what can be done in this sprint? Selecting product backlog items. Based on the sprint goal and their understanding of the product backlog, the developers discuss and select the product backlog items they believe they can done within the sprint. They consider their past performance, velocity, capacity for the upcoming sprint, and the product owner's priorities. The product owner clarifies items as needed, ensuring the developers understand the what. The selected items form the initial sprint backlog. Topic 3, how will the chosen work get done? The plan. The developers then create a detailed plan for how they will build the selected product backlog items into a done increment. This often involves breaking down the selected items into smaller, more manageable tasks that can be completed in a day or two. This plan is solely created and owned by the developers. The product owner and Scrum Master are present to assist, but the how is the developer's domain. Output. By the end of sprint planning, the Scrum team has a clearly defined sprint goal and a sprint backlog that contains the product backlog items selected for the sprint, along with the plan for delivering them. 2. Daily Scrum, inspecting daily progress. The daily Scrum, sometimes called the daily stand-up, is a quick daily meeting for the developers. Time box, a maximum of 15 minutes. It should happen at the same time and place every day to simplify things. Attendees, developers. The Scrum Master ensures it occurs and that the developers understand its purpose. The product owner may attend, but does not participate unless they are also one of the developers. Purpose. To inspect progress toward the sprint goal and adapt the sprint backlog as necessary, adjusting the upcoming planned work. The daily Scrum is not a status report to the product owner or Scrum Master. It's a planning meeting for the developers to synchronize their activities, identify challenges, and make sure they are on track to achieve the sprint goal. It's like a quick team huddle in a football game, focused, brief, and designed to coordinate plays. Common questions developers might consider, though not necessarily answer formally. What did I do yesterday that helped the developers meet the sprint goal? What will I do today to help the developers meet the sprint goal? Do I see any impediments that prevent me or the developers from meeting the sprint goal? If impediments are raised, the Scrum Master typically takes these offline to resolve them, allowing the 15-minute daily Scrum to focus purely on the developer's plan. 3. Sprint Review. Showcasing the increment. The sprint review is held at the end of the sprint to inspect the increment and adapt the product backlog if needed. It's an informal working session, not a formal presentation. Time box. A maximum of 4 hours for a 1-month sprint, shorter for shorter sprints. Attendees, the entire Scrum team and key stakeholders, customers, users, management, sales, etc. Purpose. To collaborate on the done increment, gather feedback, and determine future work based on what was learned. During the sprint review, the product owner explains what product backlog items have been done and what has not been done. The developers discuss what went well during the sprint, what problems they encountered, and how those problems were solved. The developers demonstrate the done work, answer questions about the increment, and involve stakeholders in using it. The product owner discusses the current state of the product backlog, including likely delivery dates based on progress. The entire group collaborates on what to do next based on the review of the increment, the current state of the product backlog, and market conditions or business needs. This often leads to new or reprioritized product backlog items. The sprint review is a crucial feedback loop. It ensures that the product is constantly evolving in the right direction, guided by real user feedback and changing market conditions. It builds transparency and trust among the team and its stakeholders. 4. Sprint Retrospective, improving the process. The sprint retrospective concludes the sprint. Its primary purpose is to plan ways to increase quality and effectiveness by inspecting how the Scrum team works. Time box, a maximum of 3 hours for a 1-month sprint, shorter for shorter sprints. Attendees, the entire Scrum team, product owner, Scrum Master, and developers. Crucially, no external stakeholders attend this event. It's a safe space for the team to be vulnerable and honest about their process. Purpose: to inspect the last sprint regarding individuals, interactions, processes, and tools, and to identify and plan concrete improvements for the next sprint. During the sprint retrospective, the Scrum team discusses what went well in the sprint, what should we continue doing, what problems did we encounter, what could have gone better, what did we learn, what can we do to improve our process to make the next sprint more enjoyable, productive, or effective. The Scrum team identifies one or more actionable improvements to be implemented in the next sprint. These improvements are added to the sprint backlog for the next sprint, or at least committed to by the team. Example anecdote: a team consistently found themselves struggling with unclear requirements late in the sprint. During a retrospective, they identified this pattern and decided to implement a new practice, adding a 3 amigos session product owner, developer, tester for each new product backlog item during product backlog refinement. This process change, identified and committed to during the retrospective, significantly improved their clarity and efficiency in subsequent sprints. The sprint retrospective embodies the principle of continuous improvement. It's how the Scrum team learns and evolves, constantly refining its own working methods to become more effective. These 4 events, wrapped within the continuous cadence of the sprint, provide Scrum with its dynamic and adaptive nature. They ensure that the team is constantly learning from its efforts, adapting to new information, and optimizing its delivery of value. In the next chapter, we will complete our foundational understanding of Scrum by exploring the Scrum artifacts, the tangible representations of value and work within the framework. Chapter 5, The Scrum Artifacts, Transparency and Focus. In the preceding chapters, we've laid the groundwork for understanding Scrum. We've seen how the Agile mindset guides its philosophy, how specific roles form the collaborative Scrum team, and how timed events create a consistent rhythm for work. Now, we turn our attention to the artifacts of Scrum. Scrum artifacts are not just documents or reports, they are tangible representations of work or value. They are designed to maximize transparency of key information, ensuring that everyone involved, the Scrum team, stakeholders, and even customers, shares a common understanding of the product, the work being done, and the progress being made. This transparency is fundamental to the pillars of empiricism. Without clear visibility, transparency, you cannot effectively inspect, and without effective inspection, you cannot truly adapt. The Scrum Guide defines 3 primary artifacts, each with an associated commitment that provides focus and long-term vision. The product backlog with its commitment, the product goal. The sprint backlog with its commitment, the sprint goal. The increment with its commitment, the definition of done. Let's explore each one. 1. The product backlog, the product's single source of truth. The product backlog is an ordered, dynamic list of everything that might be needed in the product. It is the single source of requirements for any changes to be made to the product. It's not a static document created at the beginning and then forgotten. It's a living artifact that evolves constantly as the product, its users, and its market evolve. Who owns it? The product owner is solely responsible for the product backlog, including its content, availability, and ordering. While they might get input from many sources, the ultimate decision on what goes in and its priority rests with them. Characteristics: deep. Product backlog items are often described as having the following qualities: detailed appropriately. Items at the top are usually clearer and more refined, ready for the developers to work on. Items lower down are less detailed, as they may change or be removed entirely. Estimated. Each item has an estimate of the effort it will likely take to implement. These are usually relative estimates, e.g., using story points rather than absolute hours, reflecting complexity and uncertainty. Emergent. The product backlog is continuously updated and refined as new ideas emerge, priorities shift, or feedback is received. Prioritized or ordered. Items are ordered based on value, risk, dependencies, and other factors deemed important by the product owner. The most important items are at the top, ensuring the developers always work on what adds the most value. Product backlog refinement is an ongoing activity, not a formal Scrum event, where the product owner and developers collaborate to add detail, estimates, and order to product backlog items. This typically consumes no more than 10% of the developer's time in a sprint. It's about breaking down large, vague ideas into smaller, clearer, and actionable items ready for future sprints. The product goal. The commitment for the product backlog is the product goal. This serves as the long-term objective for the Scrum team. It describes a future state of the product which the Scrum team intends to achieve. It guides the team's work and provides a target for the product backlog. Only one product goal is active at any time, and when it's achieved, a new one is set. It tells everyone why the product exists and where it's going. 2. The sprint backlog, the developer's real-time plan. The sprint backlog is a highly visible, real-time plan made by and for the developers. It combines 3 elements: the sprint goal, the objective for the sprint, defined during sprint planning, the set of product backlog items selected for the sprint, the plan for delivering the increment, outlining the tasks the developers will perform to get those items done. Who owns it? The developers on the sprint backlog. They create it during sprint planning, and they are the only ones who can modify it during the sprint. This reflects their self-managing nature. Dynamic nature. Unlike a fixed project plan, the sprint backlog is a living document that the developers update throughout the sprint as they learn more. If new work is required to meet the sprint goal, or if some planned work turns out to be unnecessary, the developers will make adjustments, always collaborating with the product owner and keeping the sprint goal in mind. Transparency of current work. The sprint backlog provides a transparent view of the work the developers plan to accomplish in the current sprint. It's usually displayed on a physical or digital board, showing tasks in progress, completed, and still to be started, making daily progress visible to the entire team. The sprint goal. As mentioned, the commitment for the sprint backlog is the sprint goal. This objective is created during sprint planning. It provides flexibility for the developers regarding the exact work needed to achieve it, and it acts as a guiding star throughout the sprint. If challenges arise, the developers can adapt within the sprint backlog while maintaining focus on the sprint goal. It ensures that the current sprint is meaningful for the product's overall progress. 3. The increment. The usable product. The increment is the sum of all the product backlog items done during a sprint and the value of all previous increments. It is the tangible result of the Scrum team's work. Key requirement. Done and potentially shippable. For a product backlog item to be part of the increment, it must meet the definition of done, do-D. The increment must be in a usable condition regardless of whether the product owner decides to release it immediately. It means it's fully tested, integrated, documented, if specified by do-D, and meets all quality criteria. Each sprint, a new increment. Every sprint produces a new increment, which builds incrementally on all prior increments. This means you're constantly building upon something that works, rather than waiting for a big bang release at the end of a long development cycle. Value delivery. The increment represents value delivered. It's the moment where all the effort translates into something real that users could potentially interact with. This frequent delivery of value allows for early feedback and risk reduction. The definition of done, do-D. The commitment for the increment is the definition of done. This is a formal description of the state of the increment when it meets the quality measures required for the product. It creates transparency by establishing a shared understanding among the Scrum team and stakeholders about what done means. Examples of do-D criteria. Code reviewed, all tests passed, integrated with other components, documentation updated, deployed to staging environment, meets performance benchmarks, security checks passed, accepted by QA. Consistency. All developers must conform to the definition of done. If multiple Scrum teams are working on the same product, they must mutually define and comply with the same definition of done. This ensures consistency and quality across the entire product. Continuous improvement. The do-D is not static. As the team matures and improves its practices, the definition of done can, and should, evolve to include higher quality criteria. If a product backlog item does not meet the definition of done, it cannot be considered part of the increment. It goes back into the product backlog to be considered for future sprints, reminding the team of work that is not yet truly complete. The artifacts in action, enabling empiricism. These 3 artifacts, backed by their commitments, are the linchpins of transparency, inspection, and adaptation in Scrum. Transparency. The product backlog provides transparency into what needs to be done. The sprint backlog provides transparency into what is being done now. The increment, fulfilling the definition of done, provides transparency into what has actually been delivered. Inspection. The sprint review inspects the increment against the product goal and the product backlog, allowing adjustments. The daily Scrum inspects progress against the sprint goal and the sprint backlog. Adaptation. Inspection leads to adaptation. Adjustments to the product backlog, the sprint backlog, or even the team's working process in the retrospective. They work together to provide a clear, concise picture of the product's evolution and the team's progress, enabling continuous learning and improvement. They are not merely administrative burdens, but vital tools that bring clarity and focus to the complex endeavor of product development. With a solid understanding of these artifacts, we are now ready to consider the preparatory steps before a team can truly begin its Scrum journey. Chapter 6: Getting Ready for Scrum, Planning and Preparation. Having explored the foundational concepts of Scrum, its defined roles, rhythmic events, and essential artifacts, you might be eager to jump in and start your first sprint. However, just like preparing for a long journey, success with Scrum isn't just about knowing the map. It's about making sure your vehicle is ready, your crew is assembled, and everyone understands the destination. Getting ready for Scrum isn't a one-time checklist, but a crucial phase that sets the stage for a smooth, effective adoption. Without adequate preparation, teams often stumble, leading to frustration and the mistaken belief that Scrum doesn't work, when in reality, the groundwork wasn't properly laid. This chapter will guide you through the essential preparatory steps for individuals, teams, and organizations embarking on their Scrum journey. 1. Laying the cultural foundation. Beyond process, Scrum adoption is as much a cultural shift as it is a process implementation. For Scrum to thrive, the organizational environment needs to be conducive to its values of transparency, inspection, and adaptation. Leadership buy-in and support. This is paramount. Leaders must understand why the organization is adopting Scrum, what changes they might see and need to support, and how their roles might evolve. They need to champion the shift by empowering teams, trusting them, and visibly supporting the new ways of working, even when things are challenging or don't look like traditional project management. Without this, teams will hit organizational impediments that they cannot resolve themselves, leading to demotivation. Foster a culture of trust and psychological safety. Scrum requires self-organizing teams, which means trusting individuals to make decisions and figure out how to meet their goals. Psychological safety. The belief that one will not be punished or humiliated for speaking up with ideas, questions, concerns, or mistakes is crucial. Teams cannot inspect and adapt effectively if members are afraid to admit issues or suggest improvements. Embrace experimentation and learning from failure. Scrum is empirical. It's about trying things, inspecting the results, and adapting. This naturally involves learning from things that don't go as planned. Organizations must shift from a blame culture to a learning culture where failures are seen as valuable lessons. 2. Assembling the Scrum team. The right people in the right roles. The effectiveness of Scrum hinges on having a well-formed, dedicated Scrum team. Product owner selection. Be accessible. This person needs to be readily available to the developers. Be empowered and decisive. They must have the authority to make decisions about the product and its priorities. They cannot be a committee. Be visionary. They need to understand the market, the customer, and the business goals to articulate a compelling product goal. Be knowledgeable, deep understanding of the product domain, customer needs, and business value. Scrum master selection. Servant leader mindset. They must prioritize the success of the team and the organization, not their own ego or authority. Conflict resolution and coaching skills. Able to guide conversations, facilitate discussions, and help the team navigate challenges. Deep understanding of Scrum. More than just knowing the rules, they understand the underlying principles and can adapt their coaching to different situations. Impediment remover. They should have influence and capacity to address organizational blockers. Developers formation, 3 to 9 individuals. Cross-functional. The collective team must possess all the skills needed to create a done increment without relying on outsiders. This doesn't mean every individual knows everything, but that the overall team does. Dedicated. Ideally, team members are 100% dedicated to one Scrum team. Context switching between multiple projects is a major impediment to focus and productivity. Self-managing potential. The team must be willing and able to organize its own work, make decisions on how to achieve the sprint goal, and hold each other accountable. Co-location, if possible. While not strictly required, co-located teams often communicate more fluidly and build stronger bonds. If remote, invest in excellent communication tools and practices to maintain transparency and cohesion. Case study example. A large financial institution tried to implement Scrum, but assigned part-time product owners who were also managing other projects. Their unavailability and lack of decisive authority constantly blocked the developers, leading to missed sprint goals and eventual abandonment of Scrum. This highlights the vital need for dedicated, empowered roles. 3. Initial product definition, a guiding star. Before the first sprint, you need at least a nascent understanding of what you're building. Define a product vision. This doesn't have to be a detailed specification, but a clear, inspiring statement about why the product exists, what problem it solves, and for whom. It acts as a compass for the product owner and the team. Create an initial product backlog. Don't try to outline every possible feature. Focus on the most important, high-value items that could comprise the first few sprints. These items should be detailed enough for the developers to understand and estimate, often called ready or groomable items. Start with the minimum viable product, the smallest thing you can build that delivers significant value and allows you to learn. Initial sprint goal brainstorm. While the official sprint goal is set in sprint planning, the product owner should come to the first planning session with a strong idea of what they hope to achieve in that initial sprint. 4. Define done. Setting the quality bar. One of the most critical aspects of preparation is establishing at least an initial definition of done, do-de. Without this, done becomes subjective, leading to incomplete work, technical debt, and a lack of transparency. Collaborative creation. The developers, with input from the product owner, and, if relevant, stakeholders, should collaboratively define the initial do-de non-negotiable quality. The do-de defines the quality requirements that all work must meet to be considered complete. This might include code review, automated tests written and passing, integrated into the main code base, deployed to a staging environment, user acceptance criteria met, documentation updated, etc. Baseline, not perfection. Your initial do-de won't be perfect. It will evolve and improve over time, but having a clear baseline from day one prevents a flood of incomplete workarounds. 5. Workspace and tools. Enabling collaboration. The physical and digital environment plays a significant role in a Scrum team's effectiveness. Dedicated team space. If co-located, a dedicated team space with whiteboards and information radiators, visual displays of progress, can dramatically improve communication and collaboration. Communication channels. For remote teams, invest in robust video conferencing, instant messaging, and shared document platforms that support real-time collaboration. Backlog management tools. A digital tool like Jira, Azure DevOps, Trello, Asana can help manage the product and sprint backlogs, track progress, and facilitate transparency. However, don't let the tool dictate your process. Scrum can thrive even with physical whiteboards and sticky notes. Version control and CI/CD. For software, a robust version control system and continuous integration, continuous delivery. CI/CD. Pipelines are essential for maintaining a high-quality, frequently deliverable increment. 6. Education and training. Speaking the same language. Finally, ensuring everyone understands Scrum is crucial. Scrum training for the core team. Formal training for the product owner, Scrum Master, and developers can significantly accelerate adoption and prevent common misunderstandings. Agile awareness for stakeholders. Educate key stakeholders, managers, and functional leads about the Agile mindset and how Scrum works. Help them understand their new role in providing feedback and engaging with the team, rather than dictating tasks. This manages expectations and fosters better collaboration. Setting expectations, be transparent about the learning curve. Scrum isn't instantly perfect. There will be bumps, questions, and adaptations. Emphasize that the goal is continuous improvement, not immediate perfection. By carefully considering and implementing these preparatory steps, you significantly increase the chances of a successful Scrum adoption. It reduces friction, builds shared understanding, and creates an environment where your Scrum team can truly begin to flourish. With this foundation in place, you're ready to see how Scrum operates in a real-world setting, which we'll explore in the next chapter. Scrum in Action, a sprint from start to finish. Chapter 7, Scrum in Action, a sprint from start to finish. We've now established the theoretical underpinnings of Scrum, the guiding Agile mindset, the defined roles, the essential artifacts, and the purpose of each event. But how does all of this come together in practice? What does a typical week or two look like for a Scrum team? This chapter will walk you through a hypothetical 2-week sprint from its launch to its conclusion. By following a team called the Innovators, as they navigate their sprint, you'll see how the theory translates into action, how the roles interact, and how the empirical pillars of transparency, inspection, and adaptation are applied in real time. Our team, the innovators, consists of Anya, the product owner; Ben, the Scrum Master; Chloe, David, Alina, Frank, the developers. Their product is a new mobile application for managing personal finances, and they've just completed Sprint 5. Now, they're ready to kick off Sprint 6. Setting the stage, a day or two before the sprint. Product backlog refinement in action. Even before Sprint 6 officially begins, Anya, as product owner, has been busy. Over the course of Sprint 5 and in preparation for Sprint 6, she's been collaborating with Chloe, David, Alina, and Frank. They've been refining the top items in the product backlog. This isn't a formal event, but an ongoing activity where they clarify requirements, break down larger items into smaller, more manageable ones, and provide initial estimates. For Sprint 6, Anya anticipates focusing on features that allow users to easily categorize their spending. The current top items in the product backlog include: as a user, I want to be able to tag transactions with custom categories, and as a user, I want to see a summary of spending by category. These have been discussed and are reasonably understood by the developers. Day 1. Sprint planning, maximum 4 hours for a 2-week sprint. The innovators gather in their team space on Monday morning. Topic 1. Why is this sprint valuable? Defining the sprint goal. Anya kicks off the meeting, setting the stage for Sprint 6. Based on recent user feedback and market analysis, our top priority now is to help users gain better insight into their spending. I propose that our sprint goal for the next 2 weeks be: enable users to easily categorize and visualize their spending to better understand their financial habits. This will empower our users to make smarter budgeting decisions. The developers discuss this. Chloe asks, if we hit a snag with the visualization, would focusing solely on the categorization be acceptable for the goal? Anya confirms, yes, the core value is categorization. Visualization would be a strong bonus, but the primary goal is getting the tagging working and accessible. Topic 2. What can be done in this sprint? Selecting product backlog items. Anya then presents the proposed product backlog items, the custom tagging feature, and the summary view. Frank, Alina, and David consider their collective capacity, looking at their past velocity, how much work they typically complete in a sprint, and any upcoming holidays or planned absences. The tagging feature seems like a solid sprint's work, including linking it to past transactions, says David. The summary view might be a stretch, but we can break it down. Alina adds, we also have a few critical bug fixes that we should probably pull in as they affect the core experience. Anya agrees, and they pull those items into consideration. After discussion and refinement, the developers commit to the sprint goal and select the product backlog items they believe they can realistically done within the sprint. These items form the initial sprint backlog. Topic 3. How will the chosen work get done? The plan. The developers then break down the selected product backlog items into the actual tasks needed to complete them. For the custom tagging feature, tasks might include: design database schema for categories, implement API endpoint for category creation, develop UI for tagging transactions, write unit tests for tagging function, integrate tagging with existing transaction display. They assign initial ownership for tasks, knowing this can change. By the end of sprint planning, everyone is clear on the sprint goal and the sprint backlog, which defines the work for the next 2 weeks. Day 2, Day 10. Development work and daily scrums, 15 minutes each. Every morning, promptly at 9:30 a.m., the innovators gather for their daily scrum. Ben, the Scrum Master, ensures the meeting starts and ends on time. Tuesday morning, Chloe. Yesterday, I started on the database schema for categories. Today, I'll continue that and then coordinate with David on the API endpoint. David, I began setting up the API framework. Today, I'll dive into the specific endpoint for category creation. I'll need to sync with Chloe on the schema. Alina, I wireframed the UI for applying tags. Today, I'll start high-fidelity mockups. I noticed a potential dependency with the existing transaction display module, which Frank worked on last sprint. Frank, I completed 2 of the minor bug fixes yesterday. Today, I'll tackle the third and then start looking at the front-end integration for the tagging UI. Elena, let's chat after this about that display module. Anya, product owner, observes. Available for questions but not participating in the planning. Ben, Scrum Master, notes Elena's potential dependency and silently makes a mental note to check if Frank and Elena have resolved it later. The session is brief and focused. Afterwards, Frank and Elena grab a coffee to dive deeper into the display module dependency. David and Chloe pair up to discuss the database and API. The sprint backlog on their digital board is updated. Tasks are moved from to-do to in progress. Mid-sprint example, day 6, Monday of week 2. The team gathers for the daily scrum. They notice that the summary of spending by category, feature, is proving more complex than initially thought because of a performance issue with large datasets. Frank brings it up. The data aggregation for the category summary is much slower than we anticipated. It might threaten our sprint goal if we try to tackle it fully this sprint. David, I agree. We're also seeing some unexpected complexity with nested categories. Anya, present as the product owner, hears this. While the sprint goal is to enable users to easily categorize and visualize their spending, the primary value is in the categorization. After some discussion, Anya and the developers agree to adapt the scope within the sprint. They decide to focus on getting the core categorization and basic summary visible for the sprint review, potentially leaving the more advanced, performance-optimized visualization for a future sprint. This shows adaptation in action. They are still working towards the sprint goal, categorize and visualize, but adapting the how and what to make it achievable and deliverable within the sprint. Ben, the Scrum Master, ensures the discussion stays focused and encourages the team to update their sprint backlog to reflect this refined approach. Throughout the sprint, the developers continuously integrate their work, ensuring that the increment remains done and potentially shippable according to their definition of done, e.g., automated tests passing, code reviewed, integrated into the main branch. Day 10, sprint review, maximum 2 hours for a 2-week sprint. On Friday afternoon, Anya invites key stakeholders. Marketing, sales, a couple of lead users, and an executive sponsor, along with the innovators. Anya starts by reiterating the sprint goal. Enable users to easily categorize and visualize their spending to better understand their financial habits. Product owners recap. Anya highlights the product backlog items that were done. She candidly mentions that while the core categorization and a basic summary view are complete, the advanced performance optimization for large datasets will be addressed in a future sprint. Developers demonstration. Chloe, David, Elena, and Frank proudly demonstrate the new features. They show how a user can create custom categories, tag individual transactions, and see a basic pie chart summarizing their spending by category. They demonstrate the bug fixes as well. Feedback and collaboration. One of the lead users immediately tries out the new categorization and suggests, "It would be great if I could also untag transactions easily or merge categories." The marketing team asks, "Can we integrate this spending data with our new partnership dashboard?" The executive sponsor commends the team's progress and asks about the next steps for advanced reporting. Anya actively listens, takes notes, and moderates the discussion. Based on this valuable feedback, Anya immediately starts to reorder and refine the product backlog. The untagging and merging categories suggestions might become high-priority items. The market integration request will be added as a larger potential feature. The increment is now a truly usable piece of the product, delivered transparently, and has generated invaluable feedback for future sprints. Day 10, immediately after review. Sprint retrospective, maximum 1.5 hours for a 2-week sprint. After the stakeholders leave, the innovators, Anya, Ben, Chloe, David, Elena, and Frank, remain for the sprint retrospective. This is a safe space where they discuss how they worked, not what they built. Ben, the Scrum Master, facilitates the session. What went well in Sprint 6? Chloe, the daily syncs between engineering and QA, really helped us squash bugs quickly. Frank, our collaboration during the mid-sprint scope adjustment for the summary view was excellent. What could have gone better, or what problems did we encounter? David, we definitely underestimated the complexity of the data aggregation. Maybe next time, We should invest a little more time in spike solutions, small, time-boxed investigations, for complex items during refinement. Elena, I think we're sometimes still too quick to say yes to new items from Anya in sprint planning without fully understanding the effort involved. What did we learn and what can we improve? The team discusses David's point about underestimation. They agree that for any product backlog item flagged as high complexity, they'll spend a dedicated hour or two in product backlog refinement doing a quick investigation, a spike, before sprint planning to get a better handle on the unknowns. On Alina's point, Ben suggests a quick refresher on their definition of ready for product backlog items, ensuring they are truly detailed and understood before being pulled into a sprint. The team commits to adding conduct 1 hour spike for complex items during refinement to their working agreement for Sprint 7. The cycle continues. Sprint 6 is now complete. The increment is ready, the product backlog is updated, and the team has identified a process improvement for Sprint 7. On Monday morning, Sprint 7 will automatically begin with sprint planning, and the rhythm continues. This continuous cycle of planning, development, inspection, and adaptation is the core of Scrum. It allows teams to navigate complexity, embrace change, and consistently deliver valuable products, learning and improving with every iteration. While this was a simplified example, it illustrates the critical interplay of roles, events, and artifacts that make Scrum such a powerful framework for Agile success. In our next chapter, we will discuss some of the common challenges and pitfalls that teams encounter when trying to implement Scrum. Chapter 8. Common Challenges and Pitfalls in Scrum. By now, you understand the elegant simplicity and clear structure of Scrum. You've seen how its defined roles, time-boxed events, and transparent artifacts create a rhythm for delivering value and adapting to change. However, as is often said, Scrum is simple to understand, but difficult to master. Many organizations and teams embark on their Scrum journey with enthusiasm, only to encounter various challenges and pitfalls that can derail their progress or lead them to believe that Scrum doesn't work for them. The truth is, these challenges are often not a failure of Scrum itself, but rather a result of misapplying its principles, encountering organizational resistance, or failing to fully embrace the underlying Agile mindset. Recognizing these common pitfalls is the first step towards overcoming them and truly unlocking Scrum's potential. 1. Scrum butts, lip service without true adoption. A Scrum butt occurs when teams adopt some parts of Scrum but deviate from core elements, often with a "we do Scrum, but" justification. While adaptation is key, fundamental changes without understanding the underlying purpose can break the framework. We do Scrum, but we don't deliver a done increment every sprint. The pitfall: teams might complete code, but it's not tested, integrated, or shippable to users. This means feedback loops are broken, technical debt accumulates, and true value isn't delivered. The fix: revisit and strictly adhere to the definition of done. Invest in automation, continuous integration, and disciplined testing. Make done a non-negotiable quality standard. If something isn't done, it doesn't count. We do Scrum, but we don't have a sprint goal. The pitfall: teams become feature factories, simply pulling the next top product backlog item without a guiding objective. This leads to a lack of focus, difficulty in making trade-offs, and an inability to articulate the sprint's overall value. The fix: the product owner and developers must collaboratively define a clear, concise sprint goal during sprint planning. This goal provides flexibility and direction, allowing the team to adapt how they achieve it. We do Scrum, but our daily Scrum is a status report. The pitfall: the daily Scrum becomes a boring, hierarchical reporting session to the Scrum Master or manager, instead of a quick planning meeting for the developers to coordinate and self-organize towards the sprint goal. The fix: emphasize that the daily Scrum is for the developers, by the developers. Focus on inspection of progress toward the sprint goal and adaptation of the sprint backlog. Impediments are noted, but resolution occurs outside the 15-minute time box. We do Scrum, but we often skip the sprint retrospective. The pitfall: the most crucial event for continuous improvement is ignored. Without a dedicated time to inspect themselves and their process, teams cannot identify and implement improvements, leading to recurring issues and stagnation. The fix: treat the retrospective as non-negotiable. It's the team's opportunity to get better. A strong Scrum Master should protect this time and highlight the negative consequences of skipping it. Our product owner is actually a committee or a part-time proxy. The pitfall: decisions about the product backlog are slow, inconsistent, or lack authority. This leads to confusion for the developers and a product that lacks a coherent vision. The fix: a single individual must be empowered as the product owner with clear authority to make decisions and be consistently available to the Scrum team. 2. Organizational obstacles. Beyond the team's control. Even a perfectly functioning Scrum team can struggle if the surrounding organization isn't supportive of Agile principles. Lack of leadership buy-in and support. The pitfall: leaders fail to understand their evolving role in an Agile environment. They might maintain command and control tendencies, demand fixed scope and deadlines, or focus on individual performance metrics rather than team outcomes. The fix: leaders need education on the Agile mindset and Scrum. Their role shifts to enabling teams, removing impediments, investing in necessary tools, and fostering a culture of trust and transparency. Resistance to change and mindset mismatch. The pitfall: people are comfortable with existing processes and power structures. They might perceive Scrum as a threat to their roles or a loss of control. Fear of transparency and honest feedback can also be a significant barrier. The fix: education, clear communication of the why, and showcasing early successes can help. Emphasize that Scrum is about improved outcomes, not just new rules. Acknowledge the discomfort that comes with change. Organizational silos and dependencies. The pitfall: teams are structured by function, e.g., separate UI, API, database teams, rather than cross-functional product teams. This creates external dependencies that block a Scrum team from delivering a done increment, forcing them to wait on other departments. The fix: reorganize teams to be truly cross-functional, owning all aspects necessary to deliver value end-to-end. Break down departmental barriers and foster a one-team mentality. Multitasking and lack of dedicated teams. The pitfall: team members are split across multiple projects, leading to constant context switching, decreased focus, and reduced productivity. The fix: invest in dedicated Scrum teams. Protecting their focus and allowing them to concentrate on one product backlog maximizes efficiency and enables a sustainable pace. 3. Team dynamics and culture. The human element. Scrum relies heavily on human interaction, and team dynamics can either accelerate or hinder progress. Lack of psychological safety. The pitfall: team members are afraid to admit mistakes, ask for help, or raise concerns, leading to hidden problems and unresolved issues. The fix: the Scrum Master plays a key role here, fostering an environment of trust and respect. Leaders must demonstrate vulnerability and value learning from failure over finger-pointing. Insufficient cross-functionality within developers. The pitfall: while the Scrum Guide suggests the developers are cross-functional, in reality, teams might still lack skills to independently deliver. This leads to a bottleneck when a specific skill is needed or a single point of failure if someone is absent. The fix: encourage skill sharing and learning within the team. Hire for missing skills if necessary. Challenge the team to grow its collective capabilities. Burnout and unsustainable pace. The pitfall: teams are pressured to overcommit or work excessive hours, leading to exhaustion, reduced quality, and high turnover. The fix: the Scrum Master protects the team from external pressure. The team themselves must learn to realistically estimate and commit only to what is sustainably achievable. The sprint retrospective is crucial for identifying and addressing issues leading to unsustainable pace. 4. Technical debt and quality shortcuts. The pitfall: short-term pressure to deliver features leads teams to cut corners on quality, skipping testing, neglecting code refactoring, or accumulating architectural flaws. This technical debt slows future development and eventually cripples the product. The fix: adhere strictly to the definition of done, make quality non-negotiable, regularly dedicate time in sprints to address technical debt. The product owner must understand that ignoring debt impacts future feature delivery and agree to prioritize it occasionally. Overcoming these challenges requires patience, persistence, and a relentless commitment to the Agile values and principles. It's a journey of continuous inspection and adaptation, not just for the product, but for the entire system in which the Scrum team operates. The Scrum Master, in particular, plays a vital role in identifying, highlighting, and helping the organization address these impediments. By openly acknowledging and working through these common issues, teams and organizations can truly transform their way of working and experience the profound benefits of Scrum. In the next chapter, we will shift focus to how we can measure the success of our Scrum endeavors and continuously improve our processes based on data and observation. Chapter 9: Measuring Success. Metrics and Continuous Improvement. As we've established throughout this book, Scrum is an empirical framework. It relies on transparency, inspection, and adaptation to navigate complexity. Just as a sailor needs instruments to understand wind direction, speed, and depth, a Scrum team needs ways to inspect its progress, identify trends, and make informed adaptations. This is where metrics come into play. However, a critical distinction must be made from the outset. In Scrum, metrics are a tool for learning and improvement, not a stick for micromanagement or a means to compare teams. When used incorrectly, metrics can foster fear, encourage gaming the system, and ultimately undermine the very principles of transparency and self-organization that Scrum champions. When used wisely, they provide valuable insights that fuel continuous improvement and enhance confidence in forecasting. Why measure in Scrum? The purpose of measuring in Scrum can be summarized by a few key reasons. To foster transparency, metrics make the invisible visible. They provide objective data points about the product, the process, and the team's dynamics, fostering shared understanding. To enable inspection. Without data, inspection is purely subjective. Metrics provide concrete evidence that teams and stakeholders can use to analyze trends and identify areas for discussion in events like the sprint review and sprint retrospective. To guide adaptation. By inspecting transparent data, teams can make informed decisions about what to change or improve, whether it's their process, their product, or their interactions. To forecast and plan. While Scrum embraces change, stakeholders still need an idea of when certain features might be delivered. Metrics like velocity can aid in realistic forecasting. Key Scrum metrics and what they tell us. Let's explore some of the most common and useful metrics in Scrum. Velocity. What it is. Velocity is a measure of the amount of done product backlog items a Scrum team achieves in a sprint, typically expressed in story points or item count. For example, if a team estimated 25 story points worth of work in a sprint and completed all of it according to the definition of done, their velocity for that sprint is 25. What it tells us. Velocity helps the developers understand their own capacity and provides a basis for forecasting how much work they might be able to take on in upcoming sprints. It also gives the product owner a sense of how quickly the team is moving, aiding in long-term release planning. Important caveats. It's for the team, by the team. Velocity is specific to one Scrum team and their estimating practices. You cannot compare the velocity of two different teams, as their estimation scales and contexts will vary. It's a forecast, not a commitment. A team's average velocity is a historical trend used to predict future capacity, not a guarantee or a target to be arbitrarily increased. Stability is key. Velocity is most useful when the team is stable and the size of their estimated items remains consistent. Fluctuation might indicate unstable processes or estimation issues. Burndown and burn-up charts. What they are: sprint burndown chart. Typically for the developers, this chart shows the remaining work in a sprint, e.g., hours or tasks, over time. It helps the developers track if they are on track to achieve the sprint goal. Product burn-up chart. This chart shows the total work done, cumulative completed story points, versus the total work remaining in the product backlog over time. It gives a higher-level view of progress towards the product goal. What they tell us. Both charts provide a visual indication of progress. The burndown shows if the team is reducing the remaining work as expected. The burn-up gives stakeholders a sense of overall project progress and how much work is left. Deviations from the expected trend line can prompt valuable discussions. Important caveats. Don't obsess over perfectly straight lines. Life happens and progress is rarely linear. Use them as conversation starters, not judgment tools. Cycle time and lead time, what they are. Cycle time. The time it takes for a product backlog item to go from in progress to done. Lead time. The time it takes for a product backlog item to go from when it was added to the product backlog, or first requested, to being done. What they tell us. These metrics highlight the efficiency of the workflow. Shorter cycle times indicate that work is flowing smoothly without significant bottlenecks. Longer cycle lead times can point to handoffs, waiting states, or complex processes that need optimization. Important caveats. These require good tracking of item states, e.g., using a Kanban board within a Scrum workflow. They are excellent for identifying areas where the process needs streamlining. Cumulative Flow Diagram, CFD. What it is. A sophisticated visual tool that shows the number of items in various workflow states, e.g., to do, in progress, done, over time. It appears as colored bands, with the width of a band indicating the work in that state. What it tells us. A CFD provides rich insights into flow, bottlenecks, and average cycle lead times. Widening bands might indicate a bottleneck in a particular stage, while a steady, parallel flow of bands indicates a healthy process. While not a direct numeric metric, it's a powerful visual aggregation of data. Important caveats. Requires consistent categorization of work states, best interpreted by those familiar with its principles. Quality metrics, what they are. These can include the number of bugs found, pre-release versus post-release, test coverage percentage, defect escape rate, or adherence to code quality standards. What they tell us. Quality metrics help quantify the health of the product and the effectiveness of the team's engineering practices and definition of done. A high number of post-release bugs, for example, points to issues in testing, integration, or even design. Important caveats. Define what quality means for your product. Focus on preventing defects rather than just finding them. Stakeholder customer satisfaction. What it is. This often involves qualitative feedback gathered during the sprint review, direct user interviews, Net Promoter Score, NPS, or usage analytics. What it tells us. Are we building the right product? Are users finding value? Are stakeholders happy with the transparency and delivery? This is arguably the most important metric because it ties directly to the value of the increment. Important caveats. Cannot be reduced to a single number. Requires active listening and empathy. Team satisfaction health. What it is. Qualitative insights from sprint retrospectives, anonymous team surveys, e.g., asking about trust, collaboration, psychological safety, or even simple mood indicators. What it tells us. A happy, cohesive team is generally a productive and sustainable team. Low morale or high stress directly impact performance and quality. Important caveats. This is incredibly sensitive. Metrics should be used to initiate supportive conversations, not to judge individuals. Metrics anti-patterns. What to avoid. Misusing metrics can do more harm than good. Be wary of these common anti-patterns. Using velocity as a performance metric. Never use velocity to compare teams or to judge individual performance and give bonuses. This leads to inflated estimates, reduced quality work, and unhealthy internal competition, forcing teams to increase velocity. Pressuring teams to deliver more story points per sprint will inevitably lead them to sacrifice quality, inflate estimates, or reduce the rigor of their definition of done. Focusing on busyness over outcomes, measuring lines of code written, hours worked, or tasks completed without being done, doesn't reflect actual value delivered. The focus should always be on working, done increments. Metrics as a weapon. Using metrics to blame or punish individuals or teams destroys trust and psychological safety, creating an environment where problems are hidden, not solved. Metrics without context. A number alone tells you very little. Always understand the context, the team's history, and the surrounding factors before drawing conclusions. Connecting metrics to continuous improvement. Metrics are data entry points into the empirical process of Scrum. They provide the basis for inspection and adaptation. The most important place where this loop closes is the sprint retrospective. During the retrospective, the Scrum team can look at trends from their velocity, burn down, or quality metrics. They can discuss, why did our cycle time increase this sprint? Or, why are we seeing more bugs escaping QA recently? These discussions should lead to actionable improvements that the team commits to implement in the next sprint, essentially adapting their process based on what the metrics and their qualitative observations are telling them. Metrics, in essence, provide the objective lens through which the team inspects its own performance. They enable data-informed discussions, lead to better decision-making, and reinforce the continuous learning cycle that is at the heart of Agile. By embracing metrics as tools for transparency and improvement, not control, organizations can truly empower their Scrum teams to reach new levels of effectiveness. Chapter 10. Scaling Scrum. Expanding beyond a single team. Up to this point, our discussion of Scrum has largely focused on the dynamics of a single, self-managing Scrum team working on one product backlog, delivering a single increment. This model works beautifully for many products and projects. However, what happens when a product becomes so large or complex that it requires the effort of more than one Scrum team? How do you maintain agility, collaboration, and a consistent pace of delivery when you have multiple teams working simultaneously, often with interdependencies? This is where the concept of scaling Scrum comes into play. Scaling Scrum is about coordinating the efforts of multiple Scrum teams, sometimes dozens or even hundreds, to deliver a single, integrated product. It's a significant challenge, but one that many successful organizations have tackled. Why scale Scrum? The challenges of multiple teams. When a single Scrum team reaches its optimal size, typically 3 to 9 developers, adding more people to that team can decrease efficiency due to increased communication overhead. For larger products, splitting the work across multiple Scrum teams becomes necessary. However, this introduces new complexities. Synchronization. How do teams coordinate their work when their done increment depends on work from another team? Alignment. How do diverse teams ensure they are all working towards the same product goal and vision? Dependencies. How are dependencies between teams identified, managed, and resolved efficiently? Consistent quality. How do you maintain a single definition of done across multiple teams to ensure a cohesive, high-quality product? Shared understanding. How can everyone maintain a clear, transparent view of the overall product's progress and risks? The goal of scaling is not to make Scrum overly complicated, but to provide a framework to address these challenges while preserving the core benefits of Scrum: empiricism, self-organization, and rapid delivery of value. Fundamental principles for scaling. Regardless of the specific framework chosen for scaling, several core principles guide successful multi-team Scrum. One product backlog, one product owner. For a single product, there should ideally be one product backlog owned by a single product owner. This ensures a unified vision, clear prioritization, and prevents conflicting directions, even if the product owner role is supported by a team of product owner proxies or domain experts. Shared definition of done. All teams contributing to the same product must adhere to a single, rigorous definition of done. This ensures seamless integration, consistent quality, and a truly releasable increment. If each team has its own duty, integration at the end can become a nightmare. Cross-functional teams remain central. Each individual Scrum team must remain cross-functional and self-organizing. The ideal is for each team to be able to deliver features end-to-end with minimal external dependencies. Frequent integration. Rather than waiting until the end to integrate all teams' work, continuous integration should be practiced. This means integrating newly done features from all teams several times a day, allowing issues to be found and resolved immediately. Focus on collaboration and transparency. Just as within a single team, effective scaling relies on high levels of communication, trust, and transparency across teams. Brief overview of popular scaling frameworks. Over the years, several frameworks have emerged to help organizations scale Scrum. Each has its own strengths, complexities, and use cases. This is a brief introduction, not an exhaustive guide, as going deep into any one of these would require a book of its own. Scrum of Scrums, SOS, concept, the simplest and most grassroots approach. It's often not a rigid framework but a pattern. Each Scrum team sends one representative, often a developer, sometimes the Scrum Master or product owner if they are the most knowledgeable about dependencies, to a daily or less frequent Scrum of Scrums meeting. Focus. This meeting primarily focuses on inter-team dependencies, impediments, and coordinating efforts where teams' work overlaps. It's a way for teams to communicate what they've done, what they plan to do, and if they anticipate blocking or being blocked by another team. Best for smaller numbers of teams, e.g., 2 to 9 teams working on a single product. It's flexible and low overhead. Large-scale Scrum, LSS, concept. LSS aims to apply the principles of pure Scrum to larger product development. It emphasizes that scaling is about descaling the organization rather than adding more process. LSS has 2 configurations, LSS for 2 to 8 teams and LSS Huge for 8+ teams. Focus. It maintains one product backlog and one product owner for the entire product. Teams are largely self-managing and self-organizing, with a strong emphasis on cross-team collaboration and learning. Many sprint events are scaled to involve more teams, but are still run as single events where possible, e.g., one sprint review for the whole product. Best for organizations committed to deeply understanding and implementing true Scrum principles at scale, with a strong focus on a single product. Scaled Agile Framework, SAFe, concept. SAFe is a comprehensive, prescriptive framework for enterprise-level Agile development, covering not just software but organizational structure, roles, and portfolio management. It's built around synchronized program increments, PIs, which are larger planning cycles, typically 8 to 12 weeks, that involve multiple teams. Focus. It aims to provide structure, alignment, and predictability for large enterprises. SAFe introduces new roles, events, and artifacts at multiple levels: team, program, large solution, portfolio. Best for larger organizations, often hundreds or thousands of people, seeking a more prescriptive and structured approach to coordinate many teams across multiple products or solutions. It provides extensive guidance and is widely adopted. Scrum at Scale, concept. Co-created by Scrum co-creator Dr. Jeff Sutherland, Scrum at Scale focuses on creating a minimum viable bureaucracy for scaling Scrum. It emphasizes a fractal scaling approach, where the Scrum framework is applied consistently from individual teams to entire organizations. Focus. It outlines a flexible organizational structure around chief product owners, chief Scrum Masters, and an executive action team. It leverages a scaling engine built on the Scrum of Scrums. Best for organizations looking for a less prescriptive framework than SAFe, but more structured than pure Scrum of Scrums, emphasizing organizational design and leadership roles in scaling. Choosing a path and key considerations. There is no single best way to scale Scrum. The most effective approach depends on your organization's size, culture, complexity, and specific needs. Some key considerations include: start small, begin with core Scrum and ensure a single team is proficient before attempting to scale. Focus on the product, not just the project. Scaling makes more sense around a product, long-lived, evolving rather than a temporary project. Iterate and adapt your scaling approach. Just as Scrum teams inspect and adapt, so too should the organization inspect and adapt its chosen scaling model. It's a journey, not a destination. People and culture are paramount. No framework, however robust, can overcome a lack of trust, collaboration, and a willingness to change. The Agile mindset remains the bedrock. Scaling Scrum is complex, but it's a testament to Scrum's flexibility that its principles can extend from a small team to a multinational enterprise. By maintaining the transparency, inspection, and adaptation at every level, organizations can continue to deliver valuable, integrated increments, even as the scale of their efforts grows. In our final chapters, we'll broaden our perspective even further, exploring how Scrum principles can be applied beyond software development and what the future holds for Agile ways of working. Chapter 11, Beyond Software: Scrum for Life and Other Industries. Throughout this book, our examples and context for Scrum have largely revolved around software development. This is natural, as Scrum originated in the world of software and found its strongest foothold there. However, it's a profound misconception to view Scrum as exclusively a software methodology. The truth is, the fundamental principles that make Scrum so effective in software, empiricism, iterative development, cross-functional teams, and a focus on delivering value, are universally applicable to almost any complex endeavor involving creativity, collaboration, and uncertainty. Increasingly, organizations and individuals in diverse fields are discovering that the agility and discipline fostered by Scrum can transform their work, leading to improved outcomes, faster delivery, and more engaged teams. Why Scrum works everywhere? Any undertaking that shares the following characteristics can benefit significantly from a Scrum-like approach. Complexity and uncertainty. The precise path to success isn't fully known at the outset, and requirements may change. Evolving requirements. The end goal or the steps to achieve it might shift as new information emerges or feedback is received. Need for collaboration. Success depends on the coordinated effort of a group of people with diverse skills. Desire for rapid feedback. Learning quickly from experiments and adapting is crucial. Focus on value delivery. The ultimate aim is to produce something useful and meaningful. These characteristics are not unique to software. They are inherent in many aspects of modern work and even personal life. Key transferable concepts. The core elements of Scrum easily translate. The sprint. A sprint becomes a fixed period, e.g., 1 week, 2 weeks, dedicated to making progress on a specific goal. Instead of delivering working software, you deliver a usable increment or a valuable deliverable. Product backlog and product goal. This is your prioritized list of everything you want to achieve, whether it's building a new marketing campaign, developing a legal strategy, or planning a wedding. The product goal is the long-term vision, the overarching objective for the entire endeavor. Sprint goal and sprint backlog. For each time-boxed period, sprint, you select the most important items from your product backlog that contribute to a specific, short-term sprint goal. The sprint backlog is then your plan for how to achieve that goal. Daily stand-up Scrum. A brief daily sync to discuss progress, plan the day, and identify impediments. For a marketing team, this might be, what social media posts were published yesterday? What's going out today? Any blockers? Sprint review. A regular meeting where you demonstrate the recently completed increment, the tangible deliverable, to stakeholders and gather feedback. For a nonprofit, this could be presenting a draft grant application or a new donor outreach strategy. Sprint retrospective. A chance for the team to reflect on how they worked, identify what went well, what could be improved, and commit to actions for the next sprint. This drives continuous process improvement in any field. Roles. The product owner is the what person defining priorities. The Scrum Master is the how person facilitating the process and removing obstacles. The developers are the doers, creating the deliverables. Examples across industries. Let's explore how many organizations are adapting Scrum, marketing and communications. Challenge. Marketing campaigns often involve multiple channels, evolving trends, and demanding deadlines. Scrum application. A marketing team might use sprints to plan content creation, blog posts, videos, social media campaigns, or website updates. The product owner prioritizes campaigns based on business goals. Daily scrums ensure coordination, and sprint reviews showcase completed materials to leadership, gather feedback on metrics, and quickly adapt strategies based on market response. Human resources. Challenge. HR initiatives, like developing a new employee onboarding program or implementing a performance review system, are complex projects involving multiple stakeholders and constant refinement. Scrum application. An HR team might use a sprint to develop a new module for their onboarding program, creating a done increment, e.g., the first 2 weeks of onboarding materials. Sprint reviews involve new hires and managers for feedback, leading to rapid adjustments. Product development for physical goods. Challenge. Designing and prototyping new hardware, consumer electronics, or automotive components involves extensive iteration, testing, and feedback. Scrum application. A design team uses sprints to develop specific features of a physical product. Their increment might be a CAD model, a 3D printed prototype, or a working subassembly. They conduct sprint reviews by demonstrating the prototype and testing it with engineers or focus groups, learning what works before committing to expensive manufacturing. Education and curriculum development. Challenge. Crafting engaging lesson plans, designing new courses, or even managing student projects can be unpredictable. Scrum application. Teachers designing a new curriculum might use sprints to develop specific units, testing them out with a pilot group of students. Students themselves can use Scrum to manage complex group projects, with the teacher as Scrum Master and an external mentor as product owner. Nonprofit organizations. Challenge. Managing fundraising campaigns, volunteer recruitment drives, or community outreach programs involves constantly adapting to changing socioeconomic conditions and donor priorities. Scrum application. A nonprofit might use sprints to plan a specific fundraising event, with the increment being the completed planning stage for specific aspects, e.g., venue secured, initial sponsorship outreach completed. Daily scrums keep fundraising teams aligned, and reviews with the board ensure alignment with organizational goals. Personal life and project management. Challenge. Managing large personal goals, e.g., writing a book, planning a major event, learning a new skill can feel overwhelming. Scrum application. You can apply a personal Scrum. Your product backlog is a list of all your goals and tasks. You can define personal sprints, e.g., weekly or bi-weekly. Each morning, a daily Scrum with yourself to plan the day. A sprint review at the end of the week to assess progress, and a retrospective to reflect on your personal process and adapt. Your increment is the tangible progress towards your goal, e.g., Chapter 5 drafted. Ran 10 miles this week. Adapting Scrum's language. When applying Scrum outside of software, it's helpful to adapt the terminology. Software becomes product, service, deliverable, or solution. Working software becomes usable increment, completed piece, or valuable outcome. Code becomes content, design, policy, prototype, research, etc. The critical element is maintaining the spirit of the values and principles. Don't get hung up on the exact words, but rigorously uphold the intent. The universal benefits. The advantages of applying Scrum beyond software are compelling. Increased agility. Respond quickly to changing market conditions, customer feedback, or shifts in priorities. Faster value delivery. Get usable increments of your work into the hands of users or stakeholders sooner, enabling early feedback. Enhanced transparency. Everyone understands what's being worked on, what's complete, and what the current challenges are. Improved collaboration. Cross-functional teams are empowered to self-organize and work together towards a common goal. Better risk management. By delivering in small increments and gathering frequent feedback, potential issues are identified and addressed much earlier. Higher quality. The definition of done ensures that everything produced meets agreed-upon quality standards. Boosted morale. Teams feel more ownership, are more engaged, and have a clearer sense of purpose. Scrum, at its heart, is a framework for managing complexity and continuously delivering value in an uncertain world. As such, its power extends far beyond the realm of ones and zeros, offering a flexible and empowering way to tackle challenges in virtually any industry or aspect of life. Its principles are a testament to the power of human collaboration, empiricism, and continuous improvement. Chapter 12. The Future of Agile and Your Journey Forward. You've embarked on a comprehensive journey through the world of Scrum. We started by understanding the context and imperative for the Agile revolution, seeing how traditional approaches often falter in the face of modern complexity. We then meticulously unpacked the Scrum framework, detailing its specific roles, the rhythmic cadences of its events, and the transparent power of its artifacts. We've looked at what it takes to prepare for a successful adoption, walked through a sprint in action, and confronted common challenges head-on. Most importantly, we've explored how Scrum's underlying principles extend far beyond software, touching on its applications in diverse industries and even in personal pursuits. The core message throughout has been clear. Scrum is an empirical process framework built on transparency, inspection, and adaptation. It's a powerful but deceptively simple tool designed to help individuals, teams, and organizations navigate complexity and deliver continuous value in an ever-changing world. It demands discipline, collaboration, and a fundamental shift towards a learning mindset. The evolving landscape of Agile. Just as the world of technology and business constantly evolves, so too does the landscape of Agile itself. The Agile Manifesto, penned in 2001, wasn't a finished product but a living philosophy. Its values and principles remain incredibly relevant, but their application continues to adapt. Beyond frameworks. While Scrum is immensely popular, remember that it's one manifestation of Agile. Other frameworks like Kanban, which focuses on flow and limiting work in progress, and extreme programming, which emphasizes technical practices, also embody Agile principles. Often, mature teams will blend elements from different approaches, creating what is sometimes called Scrumban, or adopting a fluid Agile approach that prioritizes the spirit of agility over strict adherence to any single prescriptive framework. The true value lies in the Agile mindset, not in becoming a rigid conformist to any one set of rules. Impact of technology. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, and advanced automation are reshaping how products are developed and delivered. These technologies, while powerful, often introduce new layers of complexity and uncertainty, reinforcing the need for adaptive approaches like Scrum. As AI assists in coding, testing, and even product discovery, the human elements of collaboration, creativity, and critical thinking become even more paramount. Remote and hybrid work. The global shift towards remote and hybrid work models has challenged traditional co-location assumptions in Scrum. While face-to-face communication remains ideal, teams have successfully adapted by leveraging robust virtual collaboration tools, focusing on explicit communication, and doubling down on transparency through digital information radiators. Agile continues to demonstrate its flexibility in new working environments. Product-led growth. Businesses are increasingly focusing on the product itself as the primary driver of customer acquisition, retention, and expansion. This trend further elevates the role of the product owner, emphasizing continuous discovery, rapid feedback cycles, and always building what truly serves the customer. Scrum, with its focus on iterative delivery of a done increment, is perfectly aligned with this product-centric approach. The future of work is undeniably Agile. Organizations that can inspect their environments, adapt quickly to new information, and foster a culture of continuous learning and empowerment will be the ones that thrive. Your personal Agile journey. What's next? This book has provided you with a foundational understanding of Scrum, equipping you with the vocabulary and concepts to engage with it. But true understanding comes from practice. Your journey with Scrum is personal and ongoing. Here are some thoughts on how to take your next steps. Start small, experiment often. Don't wait for the perfect environment or the ideal team. Identify a small project, a willing team, or even a personal goal, and try applying Scrum principles. Perhaps start with a simple daily Scrum for your morning tasks, or use a personal product backlog for your side projects. The best way to learn is by doing, inspecting, and adapting. Embrace continuous learning. The world of Scrum and Agile is vast and constantly evolving. Read more, delve deeper into the official Scrum Guide, which is the definitive truth. Explore books by other Agile thought leaders. Join communities. Find local or online Agile communities, meetups, and user groups. These are invaluable for sharing experiences, learning from others, and staying current with practices. Attend workshops and conferences. Immersive learning experiences can accelerate your understanding and introduce you to new ideas and connections. Consider certifications. If you're serious about a role like Scrum Master or Product Owner, certifications from reputable organizations, like Scrum.org or Scrum Alliance, can validate your knowledge and provide structured learning paths. But always remember that experience and continuous application are far more valuable than a piece of paper. Become an agent of change. Whether you're a developer, a product owner, or a Scrum Master, you have the opportunity to influence your environment. Share what you've learned, advocate for Agile principles, and lead by example. Be patient with others, understanding that cultural shifts take time, empathy, and consistent support. Practice empiricism in your life. The principles of transparency, inspection, and adaptation aren't just for software teams. Apply them to your career, your relationships, and your personal goals. Set clear objectives, product goals, break them down into smaller sprints, regularly check your progress inspection, and be willing to change your approach based on what you learn adaptation. Cultivate resilience and patience. Implementing Scrum, especially in an organization not accustomed to Agile principles, will present challenges. There will be resistance, setbacks, and moments of frustration. Remember that change is hard, but the rewards of increased value, happier teams, and enhanced adaptability are worth the effort. Learn from these difficulties, iterate, and persevere. This book aimed to unlock Scrum for you, providing a clear roadmap to its understanding and application. But the true unlocking happens within you, your willingness to learn, adapt, and lead. May your journey into Agile be filled with discovery, collaboration, and continuous success. The future of work is Agile, and with the knowledge you've gained, you are well equipped to shape it.